Hello and welcome to the EduTalk series hosted by Biotone EduPartner Program, and massage industry experts. With the challenges that have faced massage schools, students, and practicing therapists, thanks to COVID and its variants, the EduTalk series continues to support virtual learning and building massage community by connecting you with industry experts who share their knowledge and expertise on topics, not only for class discussion, but career success. Tonight's expert is Kelli Lene, founder of Time Well Spent Wellness Exchange, a consulting and professional development company serving the wellness industry. She is a certified ambassador of Sacred Stone Medicine and an active massage therapist who's focused her 30-year career on integrating timeless traditions with modern clinical skills for overall well-being. Let's listen and learn as Kelli shares how to flourish personally and professionally. She'll share the art and science of creating an environment that supports clients beyond wellness into well-being. Kelli will share how well-being is about having a holistic life focus that encourages positive emotions, achievement, meaning, engagement, and relationships. She'll share how to integrate these skills to create fulfilling personal experiences, treatment room success, and a flourishing practice. Hi, Kelli. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Well, I'm going to turn it over to you. So thank you again, everyone, for joining us. Please have your sound and video off. And Kelli, it's all yours.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here with everyone. I wish it was in person. I'm sure you hear that a lot, but I'm glad that we're getting to share this. I was just telling her how much I appreciate the opportunity to really fine-tune what's going on with me in my practice and in teaching so that I could share it with you. It helps clarify it for me. And so today, as always, my biggest problem is taking a very large topic and bringing it down to an intro, concise setting. So we're going to jump right in. I've got on here some of my notes, and we talk about flourishing. Flourishing is becoming a bigger and bigger phrase in mental health world. I'm seeing a lot more clinics being renamed with flourishing in it, and we're seeing quite a few textbooks and other books coming out with that being a key word. And so it's something you should be aware of as a wellness practitioner. And we're going to talk a little bit about what the difference is. Flourishing came out of a program at Penn State called the Happiness Psychology, and they had admitted that happiness was too narrow a phrase. It was too narrow a focus to really make an impact in somebody's life. So they have expanded it into well-being and flourishing. So we will talk a little bit about why you would take it beyond wellness, which is something we're very familiar with. It's a phrase that we've had around for quite a while. We went from fitness into wellness, and I was very pleased to see that. My background is marketing, it's corporate marketing. So it's something that I tend to watch for. I tend to watch for phrasing and trending that's going on. So as we look at wellness, it's something we're really used to. It's about having a healthy lifestyle. And fortunately, massage therapy, along with very many, a lot of modalities, is included in that. As we're going into well-being being a focus, the difference is a healthy lifestyle versus a well-lived life. So we're getting more into, although mental health is part of wellness, but well-being, it's about thriving in that mental. It's about pulling all your resources towards that. And so we're going to talk a little bit about how to do that yourself, and then also how to support your clients in that same journey with staying in scope of practice. I read a book recently, and it's in the resources. It's called Flourishing, and it's from the man who led the program at Penn State. And he was able to identify 5 basic components and pillars of well-being. And he had all kinds of parameters about what that needed to be. Each one needed to stand on its own. You needed to be able to pursue each one individually, and they needed to be measurable. So without going into pages and pages of his book about all the statistics, this gave me the language that I felt would be comfortable to present this to you in a concise way. So PERMA is the acronym, and that stands for, you can see it's positive feeling, engagement, relationship, meaning of life, and accomplishment. And so it really helps us narrow this down to something that we can talk about. So we're going to start with positive emotions. We're just going to go down the list. And I think a lot of us understand that the health benefits of living in optimism versus pessimism. You know, we talk about the glass half full, the glass half empty. And so there is a book that this author wrote called Learned Optimism, and that was one of the first books that came out. And it's not just what we grew up with, you can actually impact that. And we know that that automatically impacts your health overall. They also go into the difference between optimism and what we think of as like the Pollyanna approach. Pollyanna is positivity. Optimism is a bias. It's a way to approach life. Positivity is looking at each thing going, that's going to be okay. You're going to be all right. Everything's going to be okay. Optimism is the belief that you truly will be, that this is all going to work out, that it all feeds into the same thing. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. But for us, it's also about not taking individual things, but keeping an eye on the whole while working on the particulars. And this is a concept that I've actually learned in multiple trainings in massage therapy and in clinical work and with body work, which is in Native American traditions that I've studied, it's about the eagle. The eagle has the ability to perch very high, higher than most others, to fly higher than most others, but still has literally that eagle eye that never loses the details. And so in order to have that optimism bias, you need to be able to just roll things into the whole, take them as a whole and not as an individual. So when we deal with that with clients, I dealt with this with, I took Lee Ancrum's advanced bodywork program for 2.5 years. And that deals with craniosacral and some advanced body work. And what we were talking about is the same thing. It's keeping in mind the whole client that you're working with and not just the individual problems or concerns or complaints they came in with. So I want you to keep that in mind when you're dealing with that. We're also dealing with learned helplessness, and it's quite a bit of science has been done on that. And 2 things help to lead into this learned helplessness in our own lives and in others. And one is the belief in the levels of control we have. So the more control you feel you have over your life or the conditions of your life, the better you are able to overcome and to buy into the possibility of improvement. So with clients, I'm just going to bring this up, is that that's why one reason I think informed consent is so important. It's not just because it's our ethics, but also because the more we can give a client an understanding of their importance in this role, that we're not just telling them or doing, we are working with them, that you have a chance to have them step forward into this process in a much, much stronger way. We also have to be aware of, with that learned helplessness, is the awareness of failure in previous attempts. So if someone has tried to make it on the stage multiple times singing, and they're told they're no good or they lose competition after competition, it doesn't take long for a lot of people to believe that they can't sing. And so that rolls into what happens from there on. So we have to do the same thing with clients. If a client has gone into multiple modalities to try to get help or to feel better, and there has just been failure after failure, we need to be aware of that they have that bias there, and we need to be able to work with that and at least keep that awareness as we're talking to them. Again, undersell, over deliver is always my goal. So we talk about the optimism bias. There are some people who are born that way. Some people are raised that way, but it can be learned. And it's really important, I think, in the treatment room, not to make promises, but to always have this belief that anything can get better, that we can help. And if we personally can't help the client, then we will do our best to help them find who can. That this isn't the end of the road. This is not their new normal necessarily. So to help in any way we can. One of the things that we looked at when we were when I was studying these different textbooks and reports was it's a big thing about how we speak to each other and how we speak to ourselves. And one of the very simple concepts that I have been incorporating in my own treatment room is this ratio of positive to negative words. And they talked about it being used in relationships between parent and child, between two partners, and I do think it counts between a client and a therapist, is when we start to talk to them about what they're experiencing or what we're experiencing, or we're looking for feedback and we're giving feedback, subjective, objective, all that, to really look at what words we're using and how we're approaching this. We're not trying to trick anybody or manipulate anybody, but if we have a choice between being positive and giving them a way to look for hope, I think we should grab onto that, and that's just being human. One of the exercises they suggested, and I have to tell you that one of the things I like about each one of these, because remember I told you they can each be pursued on their own, is that I will give a week where I'm kind of focusing on the positive emotion, and then I'll go to the next one for the next week, and I'm really testing what is naturally occurring in the treatment room, what is naturally occurring in the classroom when I'm dealing with students, and really kind of fine tuning with that. So one of my homeworks for my students and for myself is what I call gratitude storytelling. Now, when a client comes in and I'm asking them, what their concerns are, or what are we working with, or what outcomes would they like from this? And I'll ask them their story. And a lot of times that will encourage them to go beyond just telling me the facts of what they're dealing with. That I'll start to hear the emotions that are attached to it as well. And a lot of times just being heard and seen fully makes a huge difference in how the client feels when they leave. And so I want to give them every opportunity to feel good about the time they spent with me. And so this is a way to extend this into specifics when you have reoccurring clients, especially. You can do it with your children. You could do this with your spouse. It's really a great exercise. And it's a what went well. So since the last time I saw you, what went well? And then to ask them to really look at, like a lot of times, if you ask a client, how are you? How have you been? And that's just kind of a broad question. And a lot of times people don't like to complain, but I want to start this off on a positive end. Let's look at what has been working. Let's look if we're on the right road. And so what went well? And so we start talking about that. And then I'll ask them specifically, give me three, try to give me three things that you think contributed to that going well. It's not about me as a therapist. It's about them and their lives. So, have they made adjustments to how they work out? Have they made adjustments to how they carry themselves, or what other things they are doing to support their well-being and wellness? Did they start a Pilates class? Are they stretching? And I want all that information that I can get. So that is gratitude storytelling. And I hope that you do that for yourself and for your clients. The next letter in that is engagement. And what they refer to is this as state of flow. So have you ever been engaged in a project or an event and time just flew? It's just pure pleasure. And that's what they talk about flow, that you're fully immersed in the activity and it's giving you back so much. Not necessarily just happiness, but literally joy. It's where you're fully in the moment, and it's a wonderful feeling. So a lot of times people report that they felt energized, focused, happy, all those kind of things. And I've experienced that in the treatment room, and I hope you have too, where you and the client are just clicking, and it's just, you have to force yourself to keep track of time because you have to respect the time. But we, in my tradition, Native American tradition, we call it ceremonial time. So it's really a lot of fun. It's just when everything is just flowing, and you're so happy to be there and you're so happy to be part of it. So that's what we're talking about, engagement. So some of the things that they've noticed is that flow is much more likely to happen when your skill level and the challenge level is in balance. So less frustration, less boredom. So no matter what kind of practice you have, no matter what the setting is, if you're looking at being burned out, if you're looking at constantly being frustrated, this would be a good place to look at, to evaluate. You know, do you need to up the skills? Is there a possibility that your clientele, you need to start expanding to who you service, who you market to? So honestly, looking at that and even getting some help to do that would be an ideal way to start when you're dealing with questioning whether or not you're in the right place. It may be a matter of nuances. And I've talked about this before, that as a practitioner and as an educator, as a person who's always seeking another level of growth, I have, as I've matured, moved from seeking novelty, oh, something new, oh, that looks nice and shiny, oh, I'd love to try that. Now I'm looking at what I've already mastered, what I already have competency in, and how can I get better at that? How can I go deeper into that, engage deeper into those relationships, those modalities, that clientele, whatever it is, that I can go just a little bit deeper. I've put on here, this is the AuthenticHappiness.org. They have a signature strengths test that they highly recommend. It's free for you to take it. It's free for clients. And it helps you determine where some of your strengths are that you might not be fully engaging in. So helping with that skill level and challenge level. So he uses an example that I think works really well for us. Is he had a student who was waitressing and hated it, but that's what she had to do to pay the bills and while she was going to school. She found out through the signatures test that emotional intelligence was really high for her. So she couldn't change the work of what she was doing, but she could change how she approached it and what the output was. So she decided that she was going to make sure that every encounter a customer had with her was going to be the best encounter they had of the day. She used her strengths, which is to connect with people. And it did change her satisfaction level in her work. So I think some of us deal with that. We work with clients that we don't necessarily pick. A lot of new people are working on whoever they want. And I've always said, and I've always taught that as you are longer and longer in this profession, you should be designing your practice so that you're working with the people you want to, that you're engaging the skills that you want to, that you are crafting your day where it can be the most joyous and where you can flourish the strongest. And but that's not always what happens at first. And certainly I know that I've started my practice over 3 times as I've moved to new cities. So I understand what that means. But if we can hook into what those strengths are and we can figure out how to apply them to the circumstances in which we work, then I think we would find a whole lot more engagement and satisfaction and flow. So that's what we want. The next one, and this is a big one, man, relationships. And I can remember, and I've seen I see some names of some really, really awesome educators here. And I'm just so glad to see you. Wish I was seeing you in person. So, but we know we've been around a while, a long time. You know, I've been a therapist for 30 years, was in marketing even before that, and education, adult education. So, you know, we saw we don't have relationships. We don't have personal relationships with clients. And I do think that the boundaries are necessary and you need to decide what those are and what works for you. But I have a relationship with my clients. Most of my clients are recurring, they long-term. I've had them for, you know, they've been working together for a very long time. And that's the practice that I wanted. And that's not necessarily what everybody wants. But that's the kind of practice I wanted, where I could be part of their wellness and well-being team, that we could work together towards goals. And they've taught me as much as I've ever been able to influence anyone else. And I love that. That's mine. So this section really speaks to me. So understanding that what people are seeking, what you are seeking, is one of the strongest is belongingness. So one of the things I love, the reason I love being an educator, is that I get to be in a room with a bunch of practitioners. And that's the only time I get to do that. So that is one of the #1 reasons I love being an educator, is just to be together. And so that is a high hierarchy of needs. So if you can tap into that, if you can find your tribe, if you can find those people who make you feel like you're enough, and I think that's the definition of belongingness, you're enough, then you're well on your way to meeting that. The needs that we're talking about is belongingness, is being supported, being seen, being heard, being valued, and being loved. Now, my clients know I love them in a general way, but in that time I'm with a client in treatment room, I can provide that. I can support them. I can make sure that they know they've been seen, that they've been heard, and they are valued. I can do that in the way that I see them and I treat them. And so that's one thing that I've been in some situations, being a client, doing my secret shopping and some projects I do, where it wouldn't have mattered. It wouldn't matter if I was there or not. It wouldn't even really matter if they're there or not. They were checked out, which is always disappointing to me. And we'll talk more about that. But everybody has to work at their level. So one of the things that I do with my clients is I keep different kinds of notes. So obviously, we keep notes on the treatment session as far as what we did and what we encountered and the subjective and the objective information. But I also keep information in those notes about my clients' preferences, about what's going on in their lives, what's going on in their children's lives, what excites them, so that I can celebrate with them, that I can be enthusiastic. And that's how I want to spend my day. I want to spend my day enthusiastically. So that's what we do. We celebrate. Just today, I had a client in, and as we're going over some of the things that we're working with and what we're doing and her progress with her personal trainer and some other things, she suddenly stopped and said, "Oh my gosh, I forgot to tell you, I got a hole-in-one Saturday." And I'm going to talk a little bit about how I encouraged her to go into detail about that and why. So those are the kind of things. That's how I want to spend my day. And that's most of my clients, they're going to seek me if that's also how they like to spend their time. So that's one of the things that connects us, is that opportunity to celebrate and to do follow-up and to check in with them later. So those are good things. So you have to be a good listener. Oftentimes when we talk about what's the most important skill that we could have, I always list listening way up high, really way up high. So being a good listener, but being the moderator of the discussion. So yes, some of my clients just need to vent, and I try to make sure that they have the opportunity to be heard. But if I see them going into a spin, if they're just getting negative, or they want me to participate in that, I am actually in charge of that. So I will have all kinds of tricks and to bring them out of that and to bring them into a more neutral tone. I mean, sometimes you just have to do a lip treatment and ask them not to say anything while the oil is on their lips. Whatever you have to do. But I also have to make sure that I'm authentic when I'm talking to them, that I stay optimistic no matter what, and that I avoid hijacking their session for my therapy. Sometimes because people are so empathetic and they want to show concern for you as well, because you sit here and listen to their stories. And I have to be very careful sometimes. I get tempted to just share my life. So that's really important that I not hijack the session. One of the primary things that I have read and reread and continue to use as one of my primary relationship goals is the 4 agreements. And a lot of you have already read this. It's a small book. It's absolutely wonderful. But basically, it's always be impeccable with your word. Do not take anything personal. Don't make assumptions, and do your best always. With each and every person in my life, I'm trying to do that with the treatment room. It seems to be a little easier for me because it's a contained arena. So, but that's what I do. I try to be authentic. I try to be honest with them. I make promises. I don't make promises I can't keep. Actually, I've gotten more careful about who I allow in my life, because it gets pretty complicated when you always have to follow these 4 rules. So I'm getting a little pickier about who I spend my time with. But that's really important that the clients have that consistency and people in your life have that consistency. And if you're not getting it back, then maybe it's a good thing for you to look at who you want in your life and who you don't, what clients you want, who you don't. Really about that not taking things personal. I see a lot of beginning therapists talking about being, that they were disrespected or whatever. And oftentimes those clients have no idea. They're not trying to disrespect you. They're living their lives and that's how it is. So I want to be a positive influence. I just saw a typo, sorry. I want to be a positive influence in the world in general, and certainly in my treatment room. I want to surround myself with positive influences. So I also celebrate my growth. I share it. I mean, if I've read a great book, if I had a great quote, if somebody said something that inspired me, I'm going to share it. Whether it, I have books in my treatment room. I usually have one book that I'm highlighting that's the current book that I'm excited about, or I have some sayings or quotes, all kinds of things. They prompt discussion. They keep everybody on a positive way so that we don't have to rehash what's been on the news or what makes them upset when they're outside this treatment room. And if a client has been a positive influence on me, if they have given me advice, people love to give advice, and so I don't have a problem saying, encouraging that. So but that advice, I will find ways to thank them for that. Just like everybody else, everyone likes to be wise. So when they are wise, I certainly brag on that. This next one is conversation responses, and this is another one of those. I really encourage you to take some time, give yourself a specific amount of time that you're going to practice this just to see how it goes. But we talk about constructive and deconstructive responses to people when they come in, negative and positive information, by the way. So I just did this little chart where you could see the difference. It's being, again, talked about a lot in all kinds of circles, mental health circles included. At its simplest point, a constructive response when somebody tells you something good in their lives is to amplify the experience, just like the lady who told me about her hole-in-one. Oh, what did that feel like? Oh my gosh, what was the rest of your day like? And so she went into detail about all the things that people did for her, people who came up and high-fived her on the golf course, all the texts she got. She was in the newspaper, she was going to be in her club newsletter, and it was the best day of her life. And she feels that again because we're going into detail about it. And I'm working on her the whole time. And she's going to associate that feeling with being with me. And that cannot be a bad thing. Okay. I got to share in that. It certainly made my day to hear all that enthusiasm and to get to celebrate with her. So being able to do that, to expand it beyond that. Oh, you're a new grandmother. Okay. Those kind of things. When you expand on that, then it helps expand and deepen that connection between you and them, and with your loved ones, and with your friends. A passive way to do that is what we tend to do when we're busy, which is, oh, that's nice. Oh, that's great. And then move on. A deconstructive, which they talk about, is, and I don't find this very in a treatment room, but in our own personal lives, it probably happens more than I'd like to admit, is that somebody tells me something like they're getting got a new job and they're moving out of town, and what do you think? Oh man, that's going to be an impact on my bottom line. And really, oh man, I hate moving. You personalize it, you start pulling out the negatives for whatever reason, and you take away, you just deflate the balloon. So of course, if you ever catch yourself doing that in the treatment room, because we all have our own personal stuff we're dealing with, you need to check that and look at what's going on. Because as we enter into that treatment room, we have to be neutral. We're there to help them. And as usual, I'm talking way too much. All right, meaning. All right, purpose of life. This is when we start getting really past wellness into well-being. Belonging and serving something greater than ourselves. That's huge. So my practice, and we're going to look down in here, you can look at altruism and stuff like that, but they were talking about the difference between someone having a job, someone having an occupation, and someone having a calling. And I've talked about this before, especially those of us who have taught massage schools. You have choices. You have lots of choices within our profession, which I love. but you need to be aware of that, the choices you're making, and if that works for you. So for me, I did not enter into massage therapy to have a job. I didn't even enter it as an occupation. I saw this as a calling. I was ready to throw my whole self into this, and I have. And it has been such a wonderful journey for that. Now, I don't begrudge anybody who sees this as a job, working for someone else to get to the next level of whatever they're trying to do, but that's not my practice. And if you're comfortable with that, then that's fine. But if you find yourself uncomfortable with that, look at that. You know, a job is something you do for money. An occupation, you do something for money, but you're also doing it because you're looking for advancement, that there is a possibility of maturity in it and growth. A calling is you can't, you know, unfortunately we would do it, you know, no matter what. And so it's a big difference. And so I've been looking at and talking to some people about the difference between, in our profession, we're seeing all kinds of things going on and pushes one direction or the other. But basically we were talking about the need in school and the need for critical thinking. When I got my associate's degree in health sciences, I had to take a class on critical thinking, which I thought was hilarious because I've already been a therapist for 10 plus years. But I understood once I took the class, the difference between when we're a technician and when you're a therapist. And I think the biggest difference between those two is critical thinking. A technician is doing just a routine, and that's fine. If that's, you know, if that's what you want to do and that's what they want you to do, then it's a routine. But I truly believe that what the difference is between that and a technician and therapist is the critical thinking, which is one of the things I love about the time in the treatment room, is figuring out what's going on, working with the client, pinpointing, in the classroom as well. I mean, I love, you know, having such an eclectic group of people, some GEDs, some with master's degrees, and we're all working towards the same thing and figuring out how to do that and present the material in a way that no one gets left behind and nobody, you know, is not challenged and bored. So that's where I'm at. And I acknowledge that. And when something isn't meeting that, then I know that it's something that either I need to influence, tweak, or maybe move on. The other thing we're looking at as meaning of life is motivation. And so what's the motivation for someone to grow? What is the motivation for someone to heal? And that's another thing I think we can bring into the treatment room if we're really listening. What is it a client, what are their goals, and why is this important to them? And sometimes they'll give you some really solid clues that you can use to help keep them motivated instead of giving up, which can happen a lot of times with some of us who work on very complex cases. And knowing that every display of compassion and courage and loyalty elevates us. So hearing my client stories of these things and being able to mirror that back to them, we're all elevated for that. And who doesn't want to feel that way? And again, it's about, how do I want people to feel when they're with me? That is my primary challenge to everybody. That's what I tell when you're deciding what to name your business, when you're deciding what your rhetoric is, or what your mission statement is, or what your vision statement is. Before you do any of those things, start with, how do I want people to feel when they're with me? Now, one of my biggest resources for understanding the meaning of life and what that means has been my journey into indigenous cultures. And I have studied with many, and I'm with Stone Medicine, and I absolutely love their Medicine Path program and highly recommend it for anybody who's curious about it. And if you're curious about it, reach out to me. I'm happy to tell you anything. I've talked about it multiple times. I presented multiple times at World Massage Festival in that arena, and it just has made a huge difference in my personal life and also my time in the treatment room. It's been one of the most impactful. The last one is accomplishments. We all need this. We all need the ability to recognize, to go for, and to celebrate accomplishments. And so do our clients, so do other people in our lives. So achievements, mastery, or competence. And we always talk about SMART goals. Those of you who are educators, I know you've already heard this multiple times. Specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. Now, I used to work in a OT clinic. I'm a mentor named Teresa Huber because she's a great mentor for me. And we worked prescriptive. I mean, we worked on, and so those all had to be met. And so I learned that. I learned the importance of it, of showing clients in some way the progress that they're making, to encourage them to continue on with the changes that they're making in their lives. Not because I said so, because I don't tell anybody anything, but just, oh my gosh, do you remember when you first came in and you were using a cane, or when you first came in? I mean, you're doing hiking now. You're riding your bike with your husband. You know, those are celebratory moments also, and those are encouraging. So anything that happens that we can acknowledge in ourselves and in others' accomplishments, we should seize those. We should absolutely seize them. Like I said, celebrating goals, perseverance. That is an accomplishment, to persevere, you know, to let people know that how much you're impressed by their commitment to their health, their wellness, their well-being, and how you're there for them. That's huge. Reflecting on past successes. You know, I will bring up, again, it's in my notes, I will bring it up saying, man, you know, this is really held. You were really making progress. You know, you're getting closer to your goals. There is another book in here. I'm running out of time, so I'm not going to get into it. It's about self-discipline and grit, and it's by Angela Duckworth, and I absolutely recommend that one as a reading for anybody. Highlighting new skills for you. Make sure that you celebrate every new hard-won skill. For those of you who continue with your education, those of us who teach, you know, really grab on to those things that we were able to accomplish. And again, this is a big topic for me in my treatment room. We're always talking about, I mean, I'm always so excited when I acquire a new skill, or I get exposed to a different way to do something. If my clients are part of the inspiration or the informing of this or directing, then I'm going to give them full credit. I want my clients to feel like I hold space here, and it's a place for hard things, and it's also a place for celebration. And that's where I come through. And I use my clients as my advisory council. Most of the time when I've taught some type of CE modality or something, it's because of a need a client's brought in that I didn't feel like I had the skills for, or there was a better way to do it and I need to learn that, or it's a request. And sometimes it's just because I want to, because it sounds like a blast. And I've never regretted any of those reasons to take training. But like I said before, I keep notes on what's going on in my clients' life events. I check back with them. I remind them. I celebrate. Oh, you know, those are the kind of things that create those connections that last forever. And that's the way I want to spend my day. That's what I'm doing. In the notes, you'll get a list of some of the resources I've mentioned. I hope that you'll look some of those up, and then I am open for any questions or anything. I know it's a very big topic that I covered in a short period of time, but I hope it gives you some things to think about and to share with others.
Well, thank you, Kelli, for sharing this. It's so important what you're saying, and I couldn't help but think of some personal experiences I had recently, and you know, the fact that someone can remember something you mentioned a month and a half ago and bring it up to you, and they're seeing other clients as well, but yet they're remembering you, and it's making you feel so special, and that this person cares about you. So you covered some excellent tips that I think everyone could benefit from, and as the topic says, personally and professionally. So I'm hoping that folks have chat questions. We did get a reply from Sandy Fritz. There was great info. And again, Jasmine Marie, great info. Thank you very much. If other people have questions or comments to make, I know Kelli is looking forward to hearing from you. And we'd love to hear from you. Meanwhile, Kelli, earlier you mentioned you would be at World Massage Festival in North Carolina.
Yeah.
So
we've had so many cancellations of all our gatherings, and you know, I certainly am deprived of being among my fellow professionals, and so I'm so excited. World Massage Festival is going to be in Cherokee, North Carolina this year, and I'm going to be there. If you see me, please say hi, give me a hug. I try social distancing. It just doesn't seem to work for me. So, or if you just want to elbow pump and are away from a distance, I'll respect that. But yeah, I'm so excited. Just we'll be out there. We're going to be in the classrooms, and we'll be on the trade floor. I'll be with Stone Medicine some, and it'll be. I'm just going to get my eyes and my hands on other all of us. Just hug. I'm so excited I can't even talk.
Well, I wanted to share that Patrick said it was great info and is asking if you'll be expanding on the topic another time. So you and I need to keep in touch on that because you did just scratch the surface on where this can go.
That's the toughest part of it.
Yes, and I'll probably mispronounce Jennifer's name, Jennifer Prezant. She said she'll also be at the World Massage Festival. And so Jennifer, please keep an eye out for Kelli.
Yeah.
And Sally is sending a big hug to you. So sorry that I have to leave right now. So, if you have anything left in closing, Kelli, to share a mini expansion on the topic, I'm sure people would like your closing thoughts.
Well, just this one thing, and I had it up on there for a second ago. I've been inspired so many people. Like I said, a few of them, I just saw their names on here, and I want to be that as well. I want to be somebody who is thought of and remembered, and a positive influence, leaving the world better than I found it. That was my grandmother's motto. Leaving every place she went better because you were there. And so that's been my ongoing motivation. That's from her. And Maya Angelou is another one of those people that, everything she said, I don't care if she read me the grocery list, I would find inspiration in that. And so I had put up this one about the desire to reach for the stars is ambitious, the desire to reach hearts is wise. And I think we have this really unique opportunity as wellness practitioners to touch people for an extended period of time. And as we all know, some of our clients, we're the only healthy touch they get because of circumstances. And that's a covenant. And I really want to challenge us to get to that. No matter what setting you're working in, no matter what style you work with or who you work with, just remember that is a privilege to hold that space and witness healing and to be that touch. So I'm so proud of us, and I'm so optimistic about, despite differences, where we're going to be. And I'm just so glad that I've had a small part in this, and I look forward to seeing everything that's going to happen. I'm just, it's not the Wild West anymore, but it is still the frontier. So I'm looking forward to it, and I'm just so touched that we all got to get together today. It means a lot to me.
Well, so am I. And again, thank you everyone for participating with today's Edu Talk. And tomorrow, keep an eye on your emails as we'll send out a link to this recording. And it will also include Kelli's PowerPoint, which had references and resources included. So good information to carry forward. Please join us for upcoming Edu Talks. We have some good ones coming up here. February 22nd, we'll have Laura Allen Clayton. And this should be interesting on business and marketing strategies in the post-COVID world. And we're not quite there yet, but it's a great time to get your business and marketing strategies straight. And Laura will help us with that. On March 8th, we have Taya Countryman, and she'll present on Your Body is Your Best Teacher. And if you're not familiar with Taya or haven't seen her at a trade show, she is wonderful and extremely entertaining. So that should be a good one. And March 22nd, we have Heath and Nicole Reed coming back. They did a recent Edu Talk on Thai table massage. Sorry about that. And in March, they will be presenting on tools to embody a self-care lifestyle. So very complimentary, I would think, to your talk tonight, Kelli. Thank you very much. We'll get together and talk about expanding on this topic, Kelli, and thank you all for attending. So appreciate it, and feel free to email any ideas you have for topics or speakers you'd like us to cover. And Kelli presented 2 Edu Talks, I believe, that are, it could have been 3, I might be losing count, but on the biotone.com website, under the EduTalk tab, you can see previous recordings of Kelli's EduTalks. And we definitely look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you so much, everyone. Be safe and stay warm out there. Thanks. Bye-bye.